And I talk about in that aspect of the book how we're all actually selfish by nature, but we've all learned a very unhealthy and self-destructive form of selfishness, which gives self-love, which the book talks a lot about, a bad name. But as you learn to love yourself, your selfishness becomes healthy and constructive, and your cup fills up, and you have a lot to give other people instead of being sick and tired and depressed, resentful, toxic, angry, and taking that energy out on the people in your life. So there's a really important, clear understanding and practical understanding of why it's important to be aware of this, so you can shift your perception basically and give yourself permission to do the things that make you feel well and happy that are not self-destructive. Does that make sense? Like, you may enjoy drinking, but that's a little self-destructive if you drink a little too much alcohol. Whereas to give yourself permission to eat the foods that are healthy for you, that make you feel good, or give yourself permission, and this is obviously the most important one, to be honest about what you're feeling, that's actually the healthiest thing you can do for everybody, is to be honest. And some people may initially call that selfish, but that's actually the kindest form of love that we can give, is to be honest instead of living a lie or allowing someone else to believe or live a lie. And I guess, I can say here that we've all learned to live a lie to survive. And this is really what the book is about, is how to stop living that lie. And when I say stop living that lie, I mean, how do we stop rejecting our true self? And so the book outlines how all depression and disease and a weakened immune system and relationship problems and life problems come from us as children learning to reject our true feelings, true needs, and true desires in exchange for conditional love, acceptance, approval, support, security, in order to survive. And I outline in the book logically, rationally, how disease develops in the body from years of internalizing your emotions, which leads to the stagnation of blood, toxic buildups in the body, a weakened immune system, susceptibility to viruses, bacteria, toxins, toxic people, when your inner world is not strong and you allow yourself to be used or abused or taken advantage of. And again, this all goes back to the lie that we learned to live to survive, which our parents taught us and the world taught us, because everybody's suffering with the same exact issues. And we all are doing our best every day to get by, to survive, and then eventually some of us wake up and we don't want to just survive and get by. We want to thrive. We know in our heart that we didn't come here to suffer and live in this silent misery and pain every day. There's this part of us that knows that there's more to life and that we can have real love, real connection, real purpose and meaning in our work, that we can enjoy being in this body and enjoy being on this planet rather than destroying ourselves, destroying the people around us, and destroying the planet, which most of us are trapped in a cycle of doing, even if we don't mean to. And then there's a lot of people that are trapped obviously in that cycle and are not even aware of the effects that their behavior has on the people or the world around them, let alone what it's doing to themselves inside. So one of the gentlemen who works here at the bookstore had asked me, about when I wrote the book, and I had reached a point in my own healing, and I come from a very painful childhood and upbringing, and then I grew up around a lot of drug addiction and pain and misery. And then I got addicted to drugs and alcohol as a young man, and was arrested a number of times before I was 18, and really destroyed everything that I cared about and hurt everybody that I loved. And then when I hit rock bottom at 18, I really I had to heal. I had no choice. For me, it was do or die. I was either going to probably kill myself, or I had to find a way out of suffering. I had to find a way out of this cage. And for a lot of people, probably sitting here in the room, your mind and your heart often feels, like a cage, and then your life feels like a cage, and everything feels like a cage. And I was trapped, and I was tortured psychologically and emotionally. So I went on this long journey basically to heal myself and to answer two questions. How do I heal myself, and what's the purpose of my life? And that led me to 5 different universities, to studying with spiritual masters from all over the world, to years of practicing yoga and meditation and Tai Chi and Qigong on my own. And then eventually I realized that everything I was doing was me looking for love and learning how to love myself. So spending all this money, 5 highly accredited, most well-respected universities, all these teachers, all these masters, all these books that are sold here, and I read probably thousands of them, just like you. And I realized all I was doing was looking for love and learning how to love myself. And I could see, though, how all disease and depression and suffering came from us living this lie, never learning how to love ourselves, never learning how to be true to ourselves, because we never learned how to value our inner world and honor it and say that I matter. What I feel matters, what I need matters, what I want matters. And so when I became crystal clear, I wanted to help as many people as I could. And so that that's taken me all over the world to tens and tens of thousands of people, maybe over 100,000 people at this point. Just teaching people how to love themselves practically, because I never learned how. And then I realized that every one of our problems comes back to the fact that we never learned how to love ourselves unconditionally and practically. And people will say you should love yourself, you should take care of yourself, but we don't know how. And our parents don't know how, and they couldn't teach us. And a lot of people who are teaching this type of work actually don't explain how to do it. So I wanted to make the most crystal clear map out of suffering that would be universal for anybody, if you were a Christian or a Jew or agnostic or Muslim or just believed in science, whatever your faith was, that there was this direct path out of suffering, which I call learning how to love yourself unconditionally and stop lying to yourself, stop rejecting your true self, and very practically, so kind of no bullshit. So the new edition does that in the most effective way possible. So does anybody have any questions? I mean, I can ramble. For me, I teach retreats for 3 days and can keep going for hours. What I was just asked was, if someone's suffering from an illness, is it possible to heal from the illness without any medicines? And the answer is that there is no black or white question that applies to every single situation, because when the body has reached a state of severe disease or disease, there's a lot of factors that have led to somebody being in that position. So there's a lot of factors that lead to the healing. So it's not just one black and white answer, and there's not just one time frame. So in my experience, the key is having an open mind and doing everything in your power that you can to be as happy and well as possible, and then observe what happens. One thing that's very present on my mind right now, my father is in a nursing home dying. My mother is sick. I lost a brother to a heroin overdose 4 years ago, and my mom got sick after that. And so the preciousness of life is very present for me. So we often take our health and our life for granted. So for example, right now, this is our life. This is all we got. This miracle of this conversation is all we have. And most of us take it for granted, and we miss it because it's like our lenses, the perception, our eyes through which we're viewing ourselves and our experience are muddled with pain and limiting beliefs that we've gotten attached to. So for me, the number one step, no matter where you are in your level of health or happiness, is to be as present as you can to the miracle of this existence and to honor it and take care of it. So whether you're not physically sick yet, or you are physically sick, or you have depression, the solution is the same. So it's just how much damage have you already done, and we've all done a different amount of damage at this moment in time. So someone who's in the room in a lot of physical pain with cancer or an autoimmune disease or a serious physical illness has been hurting themselves and rejecting themselves and created a life that mirrored that back for many years. Whereas someone who hasn't developed, let's say, cancer or autoimmune disease in the room right now, if you don't have a physical illness or physical pain, then maybe you haven't been doing it for as long, or you haven't been living in as much fear. So there's no black or white answer. It depends on the unique person, the unique life that they've created at present, and then how willing they are to face the truth in each situation. And as soon as we're willing to face the whole truth in each situation, more miracles begin to unravel, and healing miracles can unravel, because we're allowing the truth and we're allowing our body to function the way it's meant to function. But when you internalize your emotions every day and you live in fear and you live in guilt, it leads you to feel that you don't matter. And how many people in the room have ever felt like, I don't matter? You know, like you're with someone, or your feelings don't matter to the people maybe you love the most or you do the most for. So basically, a heart that feels it doesn't matter, or so inside, if you don't feel you matter, a heart not cared for, a heart that doesn't feels it doesn't matter, becomes a body that doesn't feel good to be in, and one that doesn't feel worthy of care and attention. It's like, what's the point of prolonging my experience in this body if I'm suffering so deeply in my heart? I don't want to be alive. And the body starts to break down from that feeling and that perception of reality, because we're so trapped by this fear and this guilt and this shame and this insecurity. So it depends on, you can go down this rabbit hole and say, how do I define healing? Is healing a perfect body, or is it peace? Or is it both? So for me, I always want to help someone get to peace more than anything, because you can heal and be at peace and die with your body full of cancer. But for me personally, I wouldn't settle for that. I want my heart to be healthy. I want my body to be healthy, because I feel that that's where the title of my book came from, is that in my heart, I felt like I didn't come here to suffer, that life was not meant to be defined by pain, isolation, misunderstanding, disease, feeling misunderstood all the time. I felt that I could have real love, and I could have real meaning, and I could have real connection and real health and real purpose in my work. And I think deep down we all know that, but we're just struggling against a world that was created out of fear and guilt and shame, because nobody's really known better, And so, when I speak, I say, where is it going to stop in our bloodline or our genetic line, in the evolution of our family, for example, which is the evolution of our world? Someone has to say it stops with me. Someone has to say, I'm going to stop living the lie. I'm going to stop hurting myself. And when I stop hurting myself, I stop hurting the people around me. But because we're all actually very selfish creatures, and that's how nature was designed, the key is stop hurting yourself. And how do you stop hurting yourself? Well, we have to stop rejecting what we really feel and letting our fear and guilt and shame and insecurity determine the words that come out of our mouth and the actions that we take on a daily basis. So it doesn't matter whether you're in great health right now or you're on the edge of death. The answer is the same, which is beautiful, and which is why I feel it's so important to share, because there's only one way to get your energy and your blood moving again, and that's to speak the truth and follow your heart based on that truth. And that's what gets your energy and your blood moving in a healthy way that no medicine can ever do for you. And that's why no matter how many doctors we see or how many pills we try, it never fixes the problem. Does that make sense? Yeah. And so one question that I could ask everybody in the room that will serve you more than probably most things I can say is to help you see the golden thread in your life of how you've created or allowed the suffering that you're experiencing or have experienced. So the question I like to ask everybody is, if you think in your life right now, where are you afraid to be 100% honest with your words and actions? So I'm going to ask everybody in the room to ask yourself, where are you afraid right now to be 100% honest with your words and your actions? Is it with your partner, your spouse, your children, your parents, your boss, your best friend, your siblings? So where in your life today are you afraid to be honest with your words and then to act in alignment with that? Can everybody identify one place where there's fear that's holding you back from being 100% vulnerable and honest with your emotions and your words or your actions? Can everybody find one place? No? Okay. Most people? Okay. No? So would you say everywhere in your life right now you're 100% honest with what you feel and open and vulnerable? Great. And in every relationship too, you're able to express your emotions in all of them? That's great. Yeah, no, it's beautiful. But most people struggle with that. So, yes, beautiful, beautiful. So, for everybody else in the room, if you think about that place in your life right now where there's subtle fear or guilt that stops you from being 100% honest with your words or your actions, then I would ask yourself, what is the justification that you have in your mind as to why you're not doing it? You know, like everything will fall apart, I'll lose this person's love, I'll lose business, I'll be alone, I'll hurt somebody. Can everybody identify what it is, how you justify the fear or the guilt? Or that's selfish of me to say, or is everybody?
How would you teach that in a child, for example? How would you teach the actors of that?
I'll go back to that because, yeah, I was explaining something, but I'll go back to that. And the answer is the same for the adult because no matter what situation that you're in, that inner child, that true part of you, that innocent, honest part of you is still here in the room, and so it doesn't matter actually if you're talking to a child or an adult. And the philosophy I take on all of this is like what Einstein said, that if you know what you're talking about, you should be able to teach it to a 5-year-old, because the truth is actually not that complicated, but when we're lost in our mind, we make everything complicated because it's a web of confusion, justification, limiting beliefs. But the answer to where we're heading with all this is the same for yourself and for a child. And if you're aware of it in yourself, then you can ask questions like, what are you feeling? What do you need? What do you want? And you can guide them in that way. But so for everybody in the room, if you think about the fear or the guilt that's stopping you from being 100% honest or vulnerable with your feelings, and that can be a fear of saying, I feel hurt, I feel angry, I have feelings for you, I'm attracted to you, I love you, or I'm not in love with you anymore, or I'm not happy, or I'm confused, or I need a change. So it can be on either side of the scale, and it can be anything that we're afraid to actually talk about and act in alignment with. So can everybody kind of connect to that? Okay. So then we don't speak on that and we don't act on that because of the belief that we have that things won't work out for some reason. And so all the reasons that you have in your mind can be translated into a lack of faith, let's say. Like, I don't trust life. I don't trust the universe. I don't trust God, if you believe in God. Can everybody see that? That the justification you use for your fear or your guilt translates into, I don't trust life, I don't trust the universe, I don't trust God, everything will fall apart, and I don't trust that things will work out if I'm 100% honest. Well, what's interesting that I've found, and which the book outlines, is that when let's say I judge you, it has absolutely nothing to do with you. I temporarily put you down in my mind to temporarily make myself feel better about what I don't like or feel good about in myself. Does that make sense? So what I'm trying to say is that the way we perceive the outer world is a projection of our relationship to ourselves. The way we perceive the outer world is a projection of the relationship that we have with ourselves. So when I judge you, all it's saying is that I have a relationship where I judge myself. When I criticize you and I'm hard on you, what's that saying is I'm critical and hard on myself. Does that make sense? So when we say, I don't trust God, I don't trust the universe, I don't trust life, what do you think we're really saying? Okay. Now, why don't we trust ourselves? Okay. Now, think about this question. Someone who's 40 years old, who sleeps 8 hours a day and is awake 16 hours a day, okay? So someone who's been alive and awake for 16 hours a day for 40 years and slept 8 hours a night for 40 years is someone who's been alive and awake for 840 million moments. Okay, so if you're 40 years old, you've been awake, eyes open, not sleeping, feeling something, experiencing life for over 840 million moments. If you're in your 50s, you've been alive and awake for over a billion moments. If you're in your 30s, you've been alive and awake for over 500 million moments. And that's a moment like this moment right now. So can everybody take a deep breath for me? Will you take a nice deep breath? Bless you. Bless you. Take a nice deep breath, feel your body, notice what you're feeling, notice if you're thinking, are you present, are you thinking, I shouldn't have come here, I know everything this guy is saying. And if you're thinking that, you should leave, truly. You should, seriously, you should leave, because you shouldn't be here. And I mean that, because what I'm trying to teach, and what I've learned, is that you have to be 100% true to yourself. So, but if you're here, take a deep breath and drop into your heart and feel your body and drop out of your head, and that the ego in your mind that you've developed to survive this cold, painful world, because your heart was broken, just like my heart was broken and has been broken over and over and over again, and I learned to break my own heart over and over and over again. Okay? So think about how many of these moments you've been 100% honest, open, vulnerable, with everything that you're feeling and thinking. And there's been millions of them. Millions and millions. 840 million as an average. Okay? And then think about how many of these moments you've actually acted based on that truth. Okay? And which way do you think the scales tip? Most people in the room have been hurting themselves most days and most moments of most hours of most days of most weeks of most months of most years of your entire life, because we all never learned how to identify what we're feeling. We never learned how to express it. We never learned how to express it gracefully and clearly and kindly and lovingly, even when we're hurt and angry. And we all never learned truly how to act on it and create a life that reflects that our entire inner truth. So our whole outer life, every relationship, every situation reflects the truth, not this inner war and this inner battle. Does that make sense? So if I was your brother and for 40 years I lied to you, I criticized you, I judged you, I abandoned you in your time of need, would you trust me? No. So can you see why you don't trust yourself? This is why when you look in the mirror and you try and say, I love you, and you don't believe it, your natural instinct is to say, I don't believe you. You're full of shit. You've been treating me like shit my entire life. Does that make sense? Let's say we have a relationship, a friendship, quote unquote friendship, but let's say you're a people pleaser and I'm really selfish and narcissistic, and I enjoy those type of people. I like using people for my happiness because that's how I learned to get through the world. And let's say you start to express your feelings and you do it really gracefully, like I feel hurt and I feel angry and no, I don't really feel good about that. And then I say you're a horrible person, you're a selfish bitch, you only care about yourself. Do you really want that type of person in your life?
No, but the person doesn't usually say that. They just kind of disappear when you say how you really feel.
Well, then those people are probably not meant to be in your life. So, because do you want to have relationships that are based on truth or on lies and pleasing just to not be alone? When you look objectively and your insecurity and your fear is not active, the truth is really apparent, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then, so you've got to just restart and find a new lot of people that sort of feel the way you do.
Exactly. Or with your family, for example, let's say your family, which are people who you can't escape a lot of the times, we're all doing our best to learn about love. So my view is that we come here to the earth, we come into being to enjoy life as much as possible and to experience and learn about love. Okay? And everybody's on that same path, even though it looks like something else. Okay? So our family, who we love but have probably been hurt the most by, they're also learning these hard lessons about being honest and vulnerable. So what I have found is that as I found the strength in myself to overcome my fear and guilt and shame and be 100% honest and vulnerable, that I've created a space in my family for my mother, my sister, and family members to feel safe to come to me with their emotions. Even if at first they're not ready, they will come back after they think about it, because basically as you learn to love yourself and accept yourself and value yourself, your heart is full of this energy of acceptance and kindness and love, because you know that's how you need to be treated, you know that's how you want to treat others, you know that you want other people to treat you that way, and you know that in order for them to treat you that way, they have to treat themselves that way. So with that penetrating insight, it changes the way you relate, not only to yourself, but to other people. So for me, on my healing journey, because I couldn't find the love I needed outside of me, I created a container inside of my mind, my heart, and my body of unconditional love and acceptance, selfishly for me. The byproduct of which has helped probably over 100,000 people now, all over the world. But the key is to be able to do it inside yourself and then with the people you care about, because that's where you're tested. Like, there's a joke in this world that I'm sure most of you have heard, right? If you think you're enlightened, go home to your family. Because it's easier for us to have this conversation here than to go to your parents or your husband or your wife, and where all those deep-rooted subconscious programs were born and exist. But that's where the true magic happens and the true work, is really done, is when we're able to practice this in the hardest places, in the most painful places. So basically, as we move forward towards a life and create a life that reflects more and more honestly who we are in our heart, what we really feel, what we value, how we see the world, how we want to treat others and be treated, we naturally leave behind anyone or anything that doesn't serve us. And it's not always easy to let go. But eventually you get so clear when you know you're hurting yourself, or you're going into a situation that's painful, or basically someone treats you like shit or doesn't appreciate you. As you start to value yourself, you say, I don't want to be around that anymore. I deserve to be treated better. My feelings matter. My heart matters. I need to be around people that can hear what I have to say and what I feel without making me wrong. And this goes back to what I was saying as children. So we all learn to make ourselves wrong to survive in exchange for conditional love, approval, acceptance, security. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Just have to start again with new people, if you're honest.
Well, it's like, let's say you're hungry and you see this perfect pizza. You can't eat the whole pizza at once. You have to eat it bite by bite. So transforming your life, you can only take it one moment at a time. So basically tonight, when you leave here, every moment, every interaction is a fork in the road, where you're either being true to yourself or you're betraying yourself, and it's actually that simple. So to me, the most valuable, priceless question on the planet in human consciousness is, how do you actually love yourself? And thank God, thank whatever you want to thank, the answer is so simple and it's the same. So how do you love yourself? How do you accept yourself? How do you be yourself? How do you forgive yourself? And I'll talk a little bit more about this. How do you value yourself? How do you believe in yourself? What is the key to all of those things? The answer is one thing: to speak and act based on your truth in every moment of every day. So when you leave here tonight, the key to healing all of your problems, whether it's physical disease, depression, a job you don't love, a relationship you don't like, attracting the right partner, is to start to be 100% honest and vulnerable with everything you say, and to act in alignment with that true feeling in your heart. And then a heart that feels cared for becomes a body that feels better to be in, and one that I want to take care of, because, God, I love connecting in this human body. I love to love, and I want more of it. And I came here to be free inside what is often perceived as a cage, the body, But if you go through this process, you become liberated in the body. So you become fully embodied and free in the body, like a butterfly inside of a body. But that's because your circulatory system's not clogged up and your subconscious is not clogged up with pain that you keep creating yourself by hurting yourself. So how do you stop hurting yourself is actually the same question as how do you forgive yourself? Okay, so if you look back on your life right now and you think about all the relationships, all the situations where you've allowed yourself to be hurt, used, taken advantage of, where you haven't stuck up for yourself, where you've let yourself be a victim, where you've let yourself get sick, you've let your money be taken from you, whatever it is that you've allowed to happen because you didn't know better and had a very hard lesson to learn, symbolizes what we need to forgive ourselves for. Does that make sense? So this is another priceless question. How do I forgive myself? And for me, I had to get to the practical solution. Now again, everything I'm saying first comes from my own selfish desire to be healthy and happy. You know, I joke that even though I help thousands of people every year, I'm the most selfish man you will ever meet. But I'm also honest about it. And you're just as selfish as me, but your selfishness might not yet be as healthy as me. But maybe it's healthier than me. It could be healthier too. Does that make sense? Okay, so how do we forgive ourselves? The key to forgiving ourselves, which also happens to be the key to forgiving other people, is to stop hurting yourself. And this gets uncomfortable. If anybody's uncomfortable and is getting distracted, it's understandable. So how do I forgive myself? I have to stop hurting myself and stop letting myself get hurt. How do I stop hurting myself and stop letting myself get hurt? I speak and act based on the truth in every single moment, in every situation. That's how you stop hurting yourself and stop letting yourself get hurt. And yes, things might crumble for a little while because if you're really honest, you might be in a marriage you're not happy with, or in a job you're not happy with, or a relationship that you're in, even a friendship or a family relationship, can be built on eggshells. Right? So you start being totally honest and fireworks start happening. But you get to this other side if you can continue to be honest. And again, a big part of communicating is being kind and as clear as you can be in your communications, which is a whole nother level, obviously, for all of us of mastery, is to be able to say, I feel hurt, I feel angry, instead of, fuck you, you asshole, or you're such a bitch, which is just code for I feel hurt and I feel angry, and we've never learned this form of communication, and so we keep breaking each other's hearts and hurting ourselves, and we disappoint ourselves because if I treat you horribly with my words and my actions, I then feel guilty and ashamed and regret it because I know I can do better, but I just haven't learned how. Does that make sense? So that's an important next step, obviously, is we don't want to just say, you know, you're a piece of shit, and that's me being honest. It's about, I feel hurt, I feel angry, I feel scared, I feel ashamed, I miss you, I don't like being around you, I need space. These are the hardest things to say, and to say them with, grace. Yes?
Just wanted to ask what you think about the phrase, you make me feel. People always think you have to own your own feelings and you can't tell someone they made you feel a certain way without letting them.
Ultimately, yes.
Just probably the last question. So
Okay.
Just coming up to time.
Okay.
It hits up.
Ultimately, that does become the healthiest perspective, because as we heal and go through this process, we don't want to necessarily give all of our power away to other people, and we don't want to get trapped in blame. Okay? So, for example, if we're in a relationship and I say something to you like you're such a bitch, and that hurts you, and then you say, and then I say, well, and then I start to manipulate you and say, you can't say I made you feel that way. Well, there's actually truth in that, because you're reacting and you're putting yourself in relationship with someone who's not healthy for you. So in the end, it's up to you to remove yourself from that situation, walk away, don't call me, don't text me, or we need to go see a therapist. It depends on where we are in our relationship and whether I'm willing to look at myself. Does that make sense? Or I could be a master manipulator and be really good at making you confused, because I'm confused. and I want you to be just as confused as me. Does that make sense? So the key is come back to how do you feel? Okay, I feel hurt. Okay, well, why do I keep going back to a situation where I keep hurting myself? Because if you go back to, let's say, a guy or a girl that doesn't respect you or doesn't treat you well, you are hurting yourself by going back. You are touching that fire and burning yourself. And after the first time or the second time, you should know, I'm going to get hurt if I touch that. But this is the lesson that we all have to learn the hard way. So for most of us in our intimate relationships, so your partner, your spouse, and your intimate family relationships, the mastery comes with how do I value myself 100% in this situation? Ironically, even someone who loves you and appreciates you more than any other human being on the planet, they can't value you 100%. Only you can value you 100%. Only you can 100% say, what I feel matters, and because life is so precious and we could all die tomorrow, only you can say, what am I going to do with this moment? What am I going to do with this hour? How am I going to value and appreciate, not take for granted the miracle of this existence right now? You know, and for me, that's a big way that I value myself, not just being honest with my words and actions, but sometimes being honest with my actions is, I don't want to be around this situation right now, so I want to go this way. I want to go have a coffee. I want to go for a walk. I just want to be by myself. And for me, that's a big way of valuing myself, because when I'm on my own and my energy body is fully open, the source inside of me percolates and fills my being with everything I need, rather than thinking I need to be around somebody to get something, to feel better. Does that make sense? Yeah. So what you're responsible for is how you react, how you speak, how you act, based on a situation you keep experiencing. You know, and we're all human and imperfect, so everybody's struggling, but if you try and someone's not open to looking at themselves and taking responsibility for their emotions instead of dumping them on you all the time, then it's up to you to say, this is not healthy for me anymore. Does that resonate? Yeah. Yeah. Anytime, I agree that these forces are strong, but in our psyche, anytime you allow something, you say, this is outside of me and I'm going to blame that, you're using your time and energy to blame instead of... No, but I'm telling you. You asked a question, but I don't know if you want to hear the answer. If you ask, you know, you give me an opportunity to answer. I pissed everybody off to make sure I took your question, and you couldn't even let me talk. Which means, okay, and I'm going to make an example right now. Which means you just wanted some attention. And it's okay. But we all want attention. We all want attention and love. We all want to feel understood. And that's exactly what I'm talking about. And that's okay. And because we have lived so long internalizing what we really feel in certain situations in our life, we've clogged up our body, and it makes us feel disconnected from the source. What's that? What's that? Interesting. You're judging me. Wait, hold on. See how this, but it's interesting because what I'm talking about is so deep and it triggers us to the core. Like, you're judging me. You just started to ramble off judgment. And again, it's a reflection of what you judge in yourself, and you haven't been honest with yourself. And until you're ready to be honest, please just be quiet. Why'd you come? Why did you come tonight?
I didn't know you were going to speak.
Well, you should have left. See, you were betraying yourself. Okay. See?
Yeah,
Excuses.
You want to. There we go.
Okay.
You can.
I would, you know, it's definitely an important conversation, but I'm speaking to a specific point, which is at the root of why we have the problems we have in the world. Because when we treat ourselves, when we are so judgmental and so hard on ourselves, we treat other people horribly, and we treat the world horribly. And our heart is so closed that we walk by people who are homeless, people who are suffering, we don't care because we're trapped in our own suffering. when you learn, when you really learn to take good care of yourself, and your suffering is not driving your thoughts and feelings every day, you have more space and there's more love to give in whatever way you're able to give at that time. Whether it's to stop and say hello, or give some money, or give some water, or listen. But if we're trapped in our suffering because we're so hard on ourselves and we're rejecting ourselves and we haven't dealt with certain things in our life, then it's hard to show up for anybody because we don't even know how to be there for ourselves. So it has to start with this.